Hey nerds, welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Rundown Recap. I'm your host Erik Hare, and with me tonight is my main man, Darren Stimple.
Why'd the Scarecrow win an award?
I love the puns. They're the best.
This is like dad jokes.
They're
I'm there for dad jokes.
So today we'll be recapping and offering some thoughts and insights into episode 4 of HBO's series The Last of Us. If you wouldn't mind, take a moment to hit the like and subscribe buttons on our channels. Leave a comment on the video if you're on YouTube. If you're on the podcast side of the house, if you haven't left a review on Apple Podcasts, please do that. Google Podcasts, wherever you consume them, try and give us a thumbs up, whatever you need to do, and then subscribe to the channels, please. It helps us quite a bit. So yeah, with that being said,
Captain Denzel lets us know if he's watching Last of Us, because
yeah,
we need him to comment on The Last of Us.
We do need to hear from the good captain on whether or not he's paying attention here. So, yeah. So the title for this week's episode is "Please Hold to My Hand," which is a line from a song that plays during both the game and
it's a different song in the game. It's still Hank Williams in the game.
Yeah.
Different song. So this one's more about a more dark love.
Right.
Love is a theme here, but still Hank Williams nonetheless.
Yeah. So tell me, quick, off the cuff there, what are your thoughts on episode 4? Well, kind of a shorter episode.
Exactly.
Shorter episode after last week's hour and 20-minute deal. So yeah,
that's what I was about to say. Is HBO Max owes me an apology, because you can't just go 80 minutes, 60, or it was like 80 minutes, 60 minutes, 75 minutes, 45 minutes. Because like, whoa, that felt like maybe the fastest episode ever, because it just was. I'm used to getting more.
And as Nick Cage says, gosh, kind of a lot's happened since then.
Yeah.
There's a lot that happened in that episode. So
Stanley, did you hear what I just said? But here's my quick thoughts on this episode. It translated. It was a one for one, basically a 1-for-1 translation. There was so many scenes from the game in this episode. So I was really anxious I was hoping Morgan felt or he doesn't feel good, so he's not on. So sorry, Morgan. But he was. I want to see what he thought of this episode, because he really likes the 1-for-1. So I want to see he's consistent on that. Anyway,
yeah.
The stuff that translated well, it translated well from the video game to the show. Maybe not as much of an impact from the in the TV show that it had in the video game, like the magazine, straight from the video game.
Yeah,
pretty much that whole car ride straight from the video game. But I feel like we've already diverged so much from the video game that this is an enhanced story. So I don't know if it hit as well for me.
Yeah.
Now the character building, like the camp scene and the end scene, and the scene where they're siphoning gas, loved those scenes. Loved building the relationship between Joel and Ellie, because that's where the heart is of the game. So we really got to that finally in this episode, and you could see the rapport between Bella and Papa Pedro. They have great rapport. Mm-hmm. So really happy about that. Strong episode for both of those actors, and we'll get into more of that, because it was so good. It felt like it was 5 minutes long.
Yeah. Well, in all fairness, in the reviews that I've read about the show and then listening to Craig and them talk about the producers of the show, this really is part one of a two-parter. Is is essentially what you're going to get here. And fortunately for us, or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, there is a large sporting event that's taking place on Sunday that's going to be eating into some streaming time. So fortunately for us, we're going to get the episode of The Last of Us. Instead of getting it on Sunday, we're actually getting it on Friday night. So that
Very
is
smart of them.
Yep, very smart of them to drop it on a Friday. That way everybody can watch it before Super Bowl, or at their leisure after that. But yes, pretty sharp on their part to do that. So again, like I said, I think after we watch episode 5, that may change how you feel about episode 4, because of it really probably could have been a really long episode, and they just cut it into 2 shorter episodes. So we'll see after episode 5 kind of how things go. But we did get a little bit of a change from the original story when it came to the setting in the game. The location is in Pittsburgh, so we're moving away from where Morgan and them live to Kansas City, is where most of the action kind of takes place, if you will, for a good portion of the episode. So sorry, Morg, that they got rid of your Pennsylvania and moved it, but
we're not gonna miss it.
Yeah,
we won't miss
so. I don't think so. So yeah. Overall, I liked the episode. I thought it was really great. For me, this felt like a let's get back on track episode. After last week's episode, this felt like we got back on the train of developing the relationship between Ellie and Joel, and so we got to see some of that. We get a little bit of a reprieve from the constant. They get out into the woods a little bit and have some bonding time there, and then the long drive helps out, and then some action. We finally get a little bit of action, which we hadn't seen in a couple episodes, if you will. So that's pretty cool. So we pick up with the series with Ellie and Joel, and if you were watching at the end of the episode 3, Ellie swiped Frank's gun from the dresser, the one that one that Frank had gotten and put into the dresser. So she swiped that gun and put it into her bag, and so we see this obsession
Chekhov's gun.
Yeah. I tried to explain that to Stacy the other day. She's like, "How do you know that was going to happen?" And I'm like, "Because it's Chekhov's gun. Like you never show a gun unless you're actually going to use it later on in the story. That's how it always works." So, and it doesn't have to be a gun. It's like it could be
Chekhov's spoon.
Right, exactly. But if you introduce that thing, it has to come back into the story later on. Otherwise, you wouldn't introduce it. So,
yep.
So
kind of ruins some things, but
yeah, exactly. So,
when she's what's
really where you've got a really great storyteller when they introduce stuff, and you as a person who normally picks up on that stuff don't pay attention to them. It's very sleight of hand, if you will, and it's always pretty fun when they do that and they catch you, and you're like, I can't believe I missed that earlier in the film.
Yeah.
So, So
that is a good point.
Yeah. So Ellie stole the gun, or I guess took the gun, because both those guys are dead. They're not really going to miss it. So
possession is 10/10 of the law.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So the opening scene is really the two of them, Ellie and Joel, at the rest stop, and so she's inside the store and she is messing with the gun. So we clearly see that she knows her way around the gun, because she's able to pop the magazine out. She's able to unrack a round that was in the chamber. She holds the gun okay, but as we'll kind of find out a little bit later, her technique needs some work.
She needs a little more discipline on that.
She does. She's a little cavalier, if you will, with her gun management and stuff, firearm management.
Here was out. I was like, oh, she was doing it, and then it went in.
And then it went in, and you're like, oh, come on. Yeah, has any gun on her nose? That's the first rule. First rule is that's you never do that. So so we see, and then Joel is out. there's a really great scene. The whole scene is really, really fun. But
Yeah.
we get Ellie tries to lighten the mood a little bit. First, she's a little hard on Joel because he's siphoning this gas out, and he's explaining to her that you used to be able to go like 10 hours on a tank of gas, but now because the potency of the gasoline is going
Diluted.
low. She mentions to him, how does this, she's like, that's really cool. You know, how does the siphon work? And he goes, well, it works against gravity like that. And she goes, you don't know, do you? He's like,
I know it works.
I know it works. Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Gravity with the air pressure. Yeah.
Yeah. It was really funny. So and then she continues to kind of lighten the mood with her pun book that she picked up somewhere, and she starts telling some pun jokes, and you can see, and I love this because this will come into effect later on in the episode. In fact, at the very end of the episode, is he's annoyed at best. He's annoyed by her and these attempts to make him laugh, or to break through that exterior, and so we move into the car.
Doesn't want to feel like a dad again.
Right, exactly. So we move into the car, and the two of them are driving down the road and everything, and so she's in the back seat of the car, and she happens to find a magazine back there with a shirtless guy on it, and it was Bill's truck. It's Bill's truck. So
Bill had 4 years all by himself.
Right. So she sees stuff that she's probably never seen before as a young teenage girl, and all that stuff. So she's like, wow, how do you even walk around with something like that? So, which I thought was really, really funny. And the whole scene was really, really kind of funny with her there in the back seat, and Joel's like, he's still trying to play the straight guy. He does not want to let her in. And so he continues to be, uptight, I guess, around her. He's still continuing. And maybe it's a little bit later up or whatever. I think it's actually the next day when they're driving, they have a conversation about that, but they end up stopping at they pull off the side of the road and they stop for the night. And so the 20-year-old Chef Boyardee, I thought was pretty. And
good. I knew it was Chef Boyardee the moment I was like,
all of us, anybody who's ever had Chef Boyardee, And it's so funny because she eats it. She's like, "What am I eating?" So and she's like, "That guy was a genius. Like, he was so great." and Joel's like, "I agree." He agreed with it and everything. So So it was a cool scene. What were your thoughts about the scene where they're kind of in the camping? Because this is really our first opportunity to see the two of them off on their own. Because up to this point it's been like point to point, and now they're really. This is, they're sleeping on their own. They're, all this stuff. So what are your thoughts here about how that scene went?
It's crazy. So they go like so far off into the woods that they're like in the middle of nowhere. And up to this point, what have we been afraid of? We've been afraid of the infection and the infected.
Right.
Right. This starts the turn towards what you should be more afraid of than infected.
Right.
And they're laying there on the campground, and of course Joel has his back. And it's such great storytelling because they end the episode with him facing Ellie. You know that. And Chekhov's he was going to roll over at some point.
Yep.
Chekhov's roll. I don't know. Anyway, so it started to turn the villain perspective to people, and ooh, why are people so scary?
Yeah.
And you will find out exactly why they are so scary,
right?
And why they should be more feared. And so you could tell that Joel, I think he felt bad for scaring her about talking about the people, because she's like, can anybody find us out here?
Right.
And he's like, no, nobody can find us out here. And then, I think he felt bad. So he stayed up all night.
He stayed up all night.
Standing guard.
Yep.
And,
and he's,
it's
clearly that protector role. Like, even though he doesn't want to get
He's-
close to her. He's in that protector role because that's what Tess told him to do. And then,
Yep.
Bill then
Oh yeah, he did
re-emphasizes
say
to
that too,
him
huh?
that he's supposed to be in that role. Um, and so Joel, like you said, I think he realizes that maybe he did frighten her. And so he stays up and patrols all night,
Yeah.
and then we get her comments about coffee, which I can't argue with her at all about. I think it does smell terrible, or it looks like it tastes like shit, and it's just terrible. But
Oh man, that's why I love putting creamer in it. Tastes good when we do that.
just drink my Earl Grey tea. That's
I mean, I loved Joel's face when she goes, "Oh, it smells like shit." And he goes, turns around, he goes, "You don't like coffee?"
yeah. Like,
and
it's
that
better
coffee
too.
meant something to him that morning because he stayed up all night. He
Yeah.
stayed up all night. He didn't need that coffee.
Yep, for sure.
He was probably excited he was going to get a little bit more.
Right. So we get back on the road in the morning. They get back on the road together, and so we have a really good bonding moment between them as they're kind of going down there, and
Real quick, the pun. Speaking of puns, while they were
yes.
laying there,
Yes,
it was the first that you gotta mention when Joel finishes the pun.
Yes, yeah.
Why did the scarecrow?
Right. Why did the
Win an award?
Scarecrow win an award? Yep. And like without any hesitation and with
no
still straight, no emotion in his voice, still straight, yeah. Delivered great by Pedro Pascal.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, just the man. I love that man so
and he
much.
doesn't crack a smile. He doesn't laugh or anything, and she still thinks it's funny, but he's like, he's not having it. He's still not
and she's kind of mad that he got it.
Yeah.
She didn't get to say it. So that was like the spark.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So they're driving down the road and she starts they start having conversation about Tommy and why he's, why he's going down the road and all that stuff. And he explains to Ellie that Tommy is a joiner, that he joined the army. And so if you go back to that first episode, I forgot that the truck was actually not Joel's truck. I think we initially thought that it was, but it was actually Tommy's truck that they were in, and that Tommy is a joiner. He had joined the army to go fight, in the army and become a hero there. He's always wanted to be
found a cause.
Right. He's always trying to find a cause, which I think is interesting because we get in that first episode, we get a couple of different instances where okay, not only is Tommy a veteran, he's gone overseas and fought, he gets in that fight trying to defend someone because he was trying to be the hero from some person that was acting crazy or whatever, who it turns out, most likely was an infected person. And so he ends up getting arrested for it. And Joel has to go bail him out. And Joel is always taking care of his brother. He's always the one saving. He's in his mind, I think he's thinking he's always the hero. Tommy is trying to be, and so he tells him,
Tommy's always trying to save the world.
He's always trying to save the world.
Which is funny because now Joel is literally going to save the world.
Right, exactly. So
trying to.
Yeah. So he tells a story about how Tommy and Joel, kind of worked their way up to Boston, how they met Tess. And then once they were in Boston, Tommy met Marlene and joined the Fireflies, and then went out west, left the Fireflies and then kind of went out west. And so she says, and I love this bit because I think it was really, really cool. It was she says, how do you know he's still alive? I just know. I know he's still alive out there. She's like, well, how do you, how do you know, he says to her, she's asking him again, like, how do you know, where are you going to be able to find him? How are you going to be able to find him? And his response is, I'm persistent. And I was like, I love it. And you could see like that was enough for her. Like she was like satisfied with that because I think it made her feel comfortable with him, made her feel more comfortable that, hey, this guy, he might not be, as bad as things kind of go ahead, but and he talks about, she's like, well, if the world is so crappy, you know, because as they're going through, they're seeing all this stuff like they're going past like these broken down amusement parks and these train tracks that are, you know, bridged for a train track that's collapsed, and she says, and I this is one of those great moments where I'm thinking the exact same thing and the character says exactly what I'm thinking, which is like, in all of this like crap, why are you like, why would you have any hope? Like if this is all done the way it is, and how, how, like Joel's response is family. Like, you know, Tommy's my family. And so I've got to go after him because he's my family. And I took care of Tess because Tess was like family, you know, like she was like family to me. And she says, and then she says, well, I'm not family, you know, and his response is really great. No, you're not, you're cargo. And I think this is the episode where that changes. At that point in the episode, she is cargo. By the end of the episode, she's not. You know, she's not. So and so I thought that was a really, really great scene, really well done, emotional moment between the two of them in the car together, you know, the way they were. So we pull into
real quick. So yesterday was Sunday, errand day, kids, car, not tired. Both of them knocked out. 5 minutes later.
Right. Yeah.
And then we watched The Last of Us last night.
That was really, really great.
That scene is in the game.
Yeah.
And then it happened in the show.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I feel that scene so much right now.
That was terrific. Yeah. I'm not tired. And then she's out. So the next portion of the episode, then we kind of move into Kansas City. And this is where we meet. This is where the real danger of the world that we exist in really comes in a couple of different ways. We get a tease of something to come, something really nasty to come. But for the most part, we are looking at
this is gonna be chills.
Yeah, of what we're kind of looking at as far as clearly the Fedra quarantine zone that was in Kansas City is no longer standing. And so we come across a situation where, and it's kind of prefaced by, I guess they have that conversation a little bit later on, but we go into, a guy saying that he needs help. You know, they decide the road is clearly roadblocked because they stop on the highway and there's a truck blocking all these different cars, but then Joel looks underneath and it's clear sailing on the other side of the highway. And so clearly it's designed to funnel you off of the highway and into this kill box, if you will, or this ambush zone. And so we have this argument between Joel and Ellie where she's trying to figure out the map. And she's like, it's like my first day and it's my second day in, you know, in a car, man, like cut me some slack. And Joel is his spidey sense is starting to go up because he knows the longer they're in this urban area, the worse things could possibly get for them. And I think, you know, as he kind of comes around this one corner, his worst fears, you know, kind of come to be. So let's kind of
great detail in there though is when he was like, you can't look at the state map. You have to look at the city map.
City map, yeah.
Because Kansas City is in 2 states. It's
right.
in Missouri and Kansas. So if you're looking at the Missouri,
right,
you're not going to get the whole picture.
Yeah.
Or if you're looking at the
there's
Kansas
a breakout map. He calls it something specific, and I can't remember. And it's been so long since I've used an atlas that I can't remember. But you always did have the state maps, and then if you were in in the city area, you had the.
It didn't say city. Yeah. What is it? What is that term?
I can't remember what it is.
Got me.
Yeah.
But basically, look at the city map.
Yeah. So kind of describe then the next sequence events because we get the ambush, I guess, or whatever. So how did that kind of take place?
What was interesting is Joel picked up on it really quick. And we find out later on that he picked up on it quick because he's been on both sides where he played this game. And then, he's been probably taking advantage of it too because of it. So
Yep.
picks up on the trap quick. He tries to get out of there. The truck gets attacked. Tires are blown from a strip, and it causes them to crash into a laundromat.
Yeah.
Scene for scene from the game, almost like
Really?
it's
Okay.
crazy. Yeah, really great, really great. And then a really great. Another great thing from the game is they keep the shootout from Joel's perspective, and you can hear the off-camera voices in the background.
Yeah.
And it just felt like a shootout in the game, which was great. What was really crazy that followed that is Joel kills two of these they're called the Hunters.
Yeah.
Terrible people. Not even the worst yet. So hang on. But kills these two Hunters, and Ellie had been hiding on the other side of the wall, and Joel, hard of hearing in one ear, doesn't hear the guy sneak up behind him. Fight ensues, blah, 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 blah. Chekhov's gun comes into play. Ellie.
Brian, right? I think the guy says his name is Brian.
Yeah, once he's shot, though.
Well,
once
yeah.
Ellie shoots him.
Yep.
And we don't even know where we don't see where he gets shot at.
Sure.
I think
in the back somewhere.
Yeah. It felt like lower back.
Well,
that scene, his scene where he was like, no, I'm Brian.
Yeah.
It made me, it felt like Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
When,
what's
his name?
Opham. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, no. Isn't that Chandler's roommate?
Yeah.
Anyway. So
where Opham is the coward in that scene, and he doesn't do anything and lets his buddy get killed.
Yes.
From that. Yeah.
From Lost.
Yep. Which actually, I hate that actor every time for that particular scene. Like, I still dislike him for that.
Even in Lost?
Yeah. Yep.
Stuff.
Yeah. I hold a grudge.
I get you. I feel you. I definitely have grudges for people's faces.
Yeah.
So I get it.
But it's really great, that sequence.
Chekhov's gun.
Yeah.
Right?
It's really great, that sequence, I think, because of how everything shifts after he's shot and is, first of all, he's going to kill Joel. Like, right. Joel is dead. Like, at this point, like, he's got the upper hand. This kid has got the upper hand. He's younger. He's stronger. He's got the upper hand on Joel, and he is choking him. And Ellie saves his life. She really saves his life. And then for this guy, Brian, to have this conversation where it's like, hey, you know what? We're not fighting anymore. Now I've been shot. Like, we're not fighting anymore. It's like, dude,
tell him you're okay.
Yeah. I think that ship has sailed for you, and so, and then Ellie goes back and terrific acting by Bella Ramsey in this scene. She climbs back through the wall, and you see her very quickly wipe tears away because she knows what has to happen. And Joel doesn't waste a bullet. He clearly just uses a knife and
so
takes
smart.
care of it. Yeah, exactly. Because the bullets are in short supply, and you really don't want a gunshot going. It's already been too many gunshots, so people are going to be coming. It's a smart move to use the knife and just finish the guy off that way. So, but that was a painful scene to watch because that guy.
Totally.
Yeah, that guy, the terror that guy had to have felt in that moment, and all that. But
make it all that way, and you get clipped like that.
Yeah, a minute before he was ready to kill Joel and Ellie. So
I don't feel bad for him.
Yeah, don't really feel bad for him. So
what's interesting though is Joel's still like wanting to protect Ellie, like she's innocent.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
he felt bad that she had to do that.
Yep.
That you could see it when he stands up. Just incredible acting here by Pedro Pascal, where he stands up, he's out of breath, almost died, and he's still conveying this like terror.
Yeah.
And like, oh no, on his face, but also still being like, I'm going to protect you no matter what, and I'll finish this job for
Right.
you and get out of here.
And I think up to this point, he's continually failed. Like he failed to protect
Yes.
his daughter. He's
At least
failed to
that's the way he
protect.
feels.
Yeah, he's failed to protect Tess. You know, he's
Yes,
failed to protect his brother. He's failed to protect everybody, and so he has this failure. And now he looks at this this is just another one in a long line of failures, and he feels bad because he still wants her to be a child. Like he still wants her, and he doesn't know that, you know, she may not be what you think she is as far as the innocence is concerned. You know, that there may be something in her past that he's not aware of or whatever. And she even says it, I think, at one point.
Hints at it.
You know, she hints at it. She's like, I don't want to talk about it, but you know, but yeah, really
wasn't my first time hurting somebody.
Really a terrifically and well acted sequence. You know, the gunfight scene was really, really cool, and like you said, from the game perspective. But I really think from the time that Bella pulls that trigger and shoots that guy, that sequence of events, I think it's maybe 2 or 3 minutes, is really, really terrific and
really,
really well acted on all three actors' parts. You know, I thought it was really, really, really well done. But then we kind of move over to, you know, clearly Fedra's not there anymore, or they're not. They've been overrun. They've been overrun by something.
By the hunters.
Something has happened. Yeah. So we get introduced to Melanie Linsky's character Kathleen, and holy smokes, man! Like she strikes me like the opening sequence that we get to meet her in. You know, she's interrogating a guy who is her doctor, in fact, who
delivered her,
who gave birth, you know, who delivered her, and
pulled her out.
And she's not having any of it. You know, and I'm curious to see how this is going to play out over time, but I feel like she's like on the edge of a nervous breakdown, but yet still somehow in control. And and that's great. She's in a bad space, like a bad headspace. And like, if you have a leader who's in that type of situation, like everybody seems to be following her, and that's not a good place for your leader to be. So, and they don't really fill in why the details yet. Like, we're still trying to piece things together as to why she's as frazzled as she is. You know, clearly they imply that the doctor had something to do with her brother's death, most likely with Fedra, that they were, you know, probably
collaborating.
Probably some sort of collaboration, you know. And he says, well, they had a gun to my head, and she pulls out a gun and is like, have I met the required, you know, have I met the required stuff to make you rat out, you know, where Henry is. And she's apparently looking for this person, Henry, and they don't really give us any details of who Henry is. For those of you who played the game, I'm sure you know who Henry is, but we haven't gotten there yet. But she is desperate. She is desperate to find this Henry person, and she is on the very ragged edge of control. And again, that's not a good place to be. So then we kind of see that she's summoned outside, and that's when they have the bodies of the 3, you know, people that got killed by Joel and them. And so she thinks that this has something to do with Henry. This is Henry's work, and you know, all this different stuff. So you know, I don't want to really go into the Henry stuff because they don't go into Henry in the episode. So I'll probably want to save that for the next episode, because I think that's when we really will start to see who this person is. However, from the game, we do get introduced to a new character who's Kathleen's kind of right-hand man. He's their commando. Like he's like the leader of the, it would seem like he's the
security
leader
force,
of the,
you know?
Yeah, exactly. Who is Jeffrey Pierce, who actually was the voice of Tommy in the video game. But he is now playing this main character, and I think it's Will. Is that his? No. What's his name?
I have it right here.
Gosh, I cannot remember who his character's name is for the life of me right this very second. But
Harry.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. So they they kind of are searching the
First
city.
of all, what a beautiful man.
Yeah,
I mean, in the apocalypse, like
Right.
that hair and
Yeah.
that beard. Are you
Oh, it's
kidding me?
gorgeous. Gorgeous. That the flowing locks, even with the salt and pepper, it looked
I was
really,
like,
really
I
great.
was like,
So,
dang, who's this guy?
yeah, right. So we get introduced to him. Looks like he's going to be a badass, and I'm excited to kind of see where that kind of stuff goes. He feels to me, at least, like he's on solid ground. Like he believes, he's listening to Kathleen and he's following her orders, but he's in a better headspace than she is. And I think he's trying to ground her, if you will, in reality also. So,
Yeah.
but after seeing those three, she
Well,
goes back into the room and she shoots and kills the doctor just like that. So that Kathleen is no joke. Like she's got,
sure,
she's got it. So
she's definitely emotionally charged.
yeah, for sure. So what kind of happens next with the Joel and Ellie stuff? Because then we kind of get.
Well, let me touch on Kathleen real quick. She's a new character to the show. Okay, she was not in the game.
Not in the game. Yeah.
This hunters group, they were in Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Pittsburgh. Who cares? Same.
Sure.
Same,
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Die.
Really, it just moves the story geographically closer
yeah.
to Cheyenne, which is
Exactly.
Wyoming is where they need to be, or Cody, Wyoming. Yep.
Right, and there's big time jumps in the game that.
Yep.
This makes it's fine.
Right.
That's no change. But
yep.
The hunters, they're bad in the game, but it's like they're just kind of NPCs as well. Like,
right.
They're just targets. They now have a face, and it's like they cast like the perfect woman to play like a Midwestern wife,
yeah.
who takes over.
Yep.
Because dude, those Midwestern ladies, man, they can run shit.
For sure.
They get shit done. So really interesting change, really humanizing the enemy here and giving them a dark side as well. So
yeah.
Great job there. What follows, where am I on? Where with Joel and Ellie? Where are we on that?
So at this point, this is where we get the scene where they're still in the still in the building together, and he goes through he apologizes to her, I think.
Yeah.
He's really blaming
he's still
himself.
wanting to keep the innocence.
Yeah. He's really blaming himself for. But then you see the shift that since she saved his life, his up to this point, he didn't trust her with a gun.
Yep.
And so
now he feels indebted to her.
He does. And now we really start to see that bond. The bond between the two of them is really starting to strengthen. Her taking that step and him, because you're right. Now he's indebted to her, but he goes through.
There was a spark in the woods, and this was the gasoline on the fire that exasperated this relationship building.
Right. And so he goes through a whole lesson with her on how to properly handle the firearm, how to, properly hold the weapon, keep your finger off the trigger, all that different stuff. So he goes
very
through,
important. Palm on the bottom.
Yep, palm on the bottom. Both hands on the gun.
Let me see anybody like this.
Right. Yeah. So
smack that shit out of here.
Yeah, and actually it's actually a really great sequence that you just talked about. Like he tells her this is how I hold it, and then he pulls on her, and like any kid in that situation, she laughs and giggles a little bit because he's, and that was a great little sequence between them, because that's exactly what what a kid would do in that situation. She's still a child, and so she is gonna laugh when you do something like that, like I can't take it away from you, because you've got that, and she's like, she kind of laughs a little bit, and it was a great little moment. Just a little tiny things like that are what really, stuff like that. I look at it because at the beginning of the episode, I actually was thinking in my head, I'm not sure that I like Bella Ramsey in this role, and by the end of this episode, I didn't have any doubts. Like I didn't have any doubts about her, because it just wasn't sure. I don't know. I just wasn't sure. I wasn't really liking her. But by the end of this episode, I'm good. I'm on board. I like her.
Yep.
I think we're in a good spot, you know?
Yeah.
So
I've seen that kind of not rationale online, but I've seen that sentiment online. I don't know if I have agreed with it. It seemed like there was a positive trend first 2 episodes, and then something about the 3rd episode she got a lot of backlash around, which was barely in the episode. So I don't know why it like started trending towards like Bella Ramsey's not the it's kind of the worst part about the show.
I mean, I don't know why I felt that way. I just didn't feel like she fit the character, and I've never played the game, so here's a person who's never played the game, and I'm kind of feeling this going, I'm not sure, if I'm really on board. But after this episode, definitely got back in there, but the interesting
kind of like
thing,
more of a personality,
very much so, very much so. And I think it was a much more dynamic episode for her than she's done up to this point. Because Joel wasn't wrong. Up to this point, she's really just been cargo. And for this episode, she really got to just kind of flex her personality, because really she's been kind of a douchey kid, to Joel and gotten into stuff. But the scene kind of ends with Joel still feeling guilty that he blames himself and apologizes to her because he's sorry that she had to, that she's had to do violence, on his behalf. And he says, it's hard the first time you have to, I remember and she says, it's not my first time, and then it just kind of gets left there like that. And I was like, whoa,
the first time she doesn't want to talk about it.
Right. And then she doesn't want to talk about it. Yep. So I just thought it was interesting, and then they kind of move on from there. So Kathleen and, I think we kind of cut back. Kathleen and them are going through a building. They find a attic space where it looks like Henry and Sam. We get introduced to this other character, Sam, and he clearly is a child. At least it looks like he's a child, because there's child drawings all over the place. And so it gets a little confusing to me as to why she's so desperate for Henry and Sam, who Sam clearly is a child, but it looks like they're out of food. They don't have, or at least they've eaten quite a bit of stuff in this attic. And then they go into the basement, and that's when we see clearly they're alluding to something is underneath the building, and they're not sure. They apparently know what it is, and so Kathleen and what's his name have an argument about whether they should tell everybody what's under the building. And she says, no, let's focus on Sam.
This is an example like 900 of her why she's a terrible leader.
Yeah. She's like, everybody needs to just stay focused on Henry and Sam. And again, a terrible leader who is leading by emotion and not leading. She has not detached herself from the situation. She is leading from an emotional perspective, which as a leader is a really bad place to be, because that's usually when you cost people their lives. So maybe
she's a good leader when she's not emotionally charged. So she's making terrible decisions because she's emotionally charged. She might still be a good leader without that.
Yeah. So we cut away to, so I'm anxious to see they gave us a little hint in the trailer. If you're looking, I think there's something that comes up out of it. Clearly there's something with the infected that we haven't seen yet. So, and it looks pretty crazy. So I'm excited for that. Like, I'm super excited for that. Joel basically picks the tallest building in the area, 45 some story building, and is like, that's where we're going. So they ended up maneuvering themselves over to that, and they climb as far as Joel's knees can take him. And and so
I wish, my gosh, dude, the guy had been driving all day for the last 2 days. You'd be stiff. He's sleeping on the floor. 33 floors is impressive.
It's a long way to get up. Yeah, and it's smart because like there's no way if they're going to go through all these buildings, but it's doubtful that they're going to send a team in to check all 45 stories of that building, and make sure that they're not in there. So so they get set up for the night, and then we have just a terrific
character
really,
building.
yeah, a really terrific character building scene between Ellie and Joel to kind of wrap up the episode, where she kind of says, "Are you okay when it comes to, are you okay?" And he's like, "No, not really," and then she goes, "I noticed that you can't hear out of the one side of your ear, or one side of your head." And he says, it's probably from shooting. So that's another reason why you shouldn't, shoot a gun if you don't need to, but
keep to the knife if you want to keep your hearing.
Yeah. But he's still beating himself up over Ellie having to shoot that guy.
Yeah.
But they lay down. He takes some glass and puts it all down to make sure that he hides, so that in case somebody comes in, that they're going to step on the glass and he'll be able to hear him.
So John McClane can't run.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So so then they lay down, and he of course has his good ear up when he goes to sleep, and he's facing away from her with his good ear up. And so the pun comes out again. So I'll let you tell the pun, because it's really, really.
Is this the Scarecrow one?
No, this is the Scarecrow one.
This is the diary.
Yeah, the Scarecrow one is the one when they're camping, and he guesses
right.
that one. So yeah,
he guesses that one, and this one is he goes. Oh man, what is it? How does it go? It goes.
She says, "Did you know that diarrhea is
is in your DNA?
Is genetic? It's something like that." Yeah.
Or I think she says diarrhea is in your DNA, and he's like, "What?"
Yeah.
And she goes, "Yeah, it runs in your genes."
Yeah.
and that cracked him wide open.
Yeah. And I think it's all
poop jokes will always be funny.
Yeah, they always hit. They always hit. And he says he tries to at least fight it off initially. Like, you hear it in his voice. He's like, "That was so terrible," And she goes, "You laughed, MFer," and he's like, and then he gets a good laugh, and it was a great moment for I think really the first truly great moment between the two of them, where they both are being genuine with each other. I think Joel is genuine in that moment. She is genuine in that moment, and so we're starting to see that. I think Joel will start to have that love for her, and she'll start to have that love for him, and wherever that goes, that may be good or bad. We'll just we'll kind of see how that. Corny
humor is the way to Joel's heart.
Yes, right.
Darren had tons of corny humor, and now bringing out the puns. Are you kidding me? Going right to the dad jokes. That's cheating. So I love that Joel has the soft spot for dad humor.
Yep. Yeah, agreed. So so he does fall asleep facing away from her, but then a little bit later.
Are you sure you're gonna hear him?
Yeah, right.
I'll hear him.
I'll hear him. So he's facing the other direction, and then we kind of fade to dark, and you hear Ellie say, "Joel, Joel," and then she yells his name, and you see him wake up, and he's on his side where his bad ear is exposed and his good ear is on the pillow, I guess, or whatever, the jacket, and we see that somebody's holding a gun to Ellie, and then he looks up, and there's a kid. I mean, honest to God, just child holding a gun on him, and then he goes, shh, and we cut to the end of the episode. So
and you if you made the connection, right? They showed that Sam is the younger brother.
Yep.
Likes to draw superheroes.
Yep.
Drew him and his brother flying together.
Yep.
And he's drawn a superhero mask on his face. And so that should give you visual connection.
Right.
For you attention to detail nerds. That this is Henry and Sam, the names that Kathleen has been dropping throughout the episode, that gamers are just like, I don't know if I'm ready for this kind of thing, anxiety. And for new to the story people, did you make that connection?
I did, yeah. I was like, well, this has to be, because, like you said, the drawings on there when they were in the attic, you could see the drawings were all over the place for the kid, and so I looked at Stace after the episode when I go, well, I guess that's Henry and Sam, and so yeah, so that
Was she like, yeah, totally, or was she like, how did you make?
no, yeah, it was it to me it was an easy, again, Chekhov's gun, like we name drop these two people and all of a sudden we get two people at
Chekhov's
the end,
people.
Chekhov's people. So all in all, great episode. Like I said, I think we're looking at part one of a two-parter, even though this is all it's all in the same season, but I really feel like episode 4 and episode 5 are probably going to run together and take us through some pretty exciting stuff coming up. So
might be another 80-minute episode. I don't know. It's got to be a big episode, with knowing if they go through with what I think they go through. It's got to be a giant episode.
It could be, yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
I cannot wait. I mean, it's so good. We get it Friday now.
Yeah.
I don't have to
right. Yep. Which is great because I have a huge Super Bowl. I'm doing a bunch of cooking all day and stuff, so I'll probably be, doing some ribs and
fly Eagles fly.
Yeah, I know. I'm going for the Chiefs, the chefs. So
whatever.
Yeah, I can't. I'm a Washington football team person. Fan. I cannot bring myself to root for the Eagles. So.
Well, yeah, Washington. I just call them Redskins.
Yeah, you can't call them that. They're the Commanders now, or whatever nonsense.
Yeah, the Commanders.
Yeah.
So, predictions? Do you want to do predictions?
Yeah, feel free. Yeah,
I can't because I know, but I want to see what you.
Well, think. I think we're going to see Joel and Ellie are going to team up with Sam and Henry. I truly don't know. If you've watched the trailers, if you watch the original trailer for the series itself, there is something that comes up out of the ground that looks monstrous. And then if you watch the most recent trailer for episode 5, I think you kind of see it again and from a different perspective. Something is coming up that's going to require a lot of firepower to bring down, I imagine, or something. I'm not sure how that's going to happen, but that's going to raise the terror level and stuff up. But I think we're going to get an expansion of and maybe some answers as to why human beings are the worst part of this world.
Yes.
And so we're going to see some interesting stuff, I think, from that perspective as well. So those are my two predictions. Something from the infected that we haven't seen yet, and then something monstrous that we haven't seen from the infected side, and then I think we'll probably ratchet up the human being, how bad people can be, and probably based on listening to the producers of the show, the writers of the show. It's most likely, as you can tell from her emotional state, from Kathleen's emotional state, she's doing this because someone she loved,
And she said, "My brother was this the cell my brother was beat to death in."
Right. Yeah.
So Fedra beat him to death.
Yeah. So she's because of her love for her brother, or for maybe somebody else, I don't know, but she's clearly emotionally compromised and is leading from a point of emotion, and that's not a good place to be. So and it puts Joel and Ellie in a bad spot for sure.
Well, they talk about it in that after inside the episode after part where they were talking about throughout history, rebels like rise up and they take over, and then they end up being even worse than the previous regime. And you see that right as she executes the doctor, and then she tells her team to go out and kill all the collaborators.
Yeah.
Like I wonder how many that is, you know?
And how do you determine who's a collaborator and who's not?
Right, exactly.
Like that's the, it's just like the Red Guards and the Jacobins and from the French Revolution, and it's just
so on and so forth.
History is littered with these revolutionaries,
Republicans and Democrats
and stuff.
Jeez. Yeah. I mean, here's one last thought for me is. Henry and Sam are big time characters, and they're being tied into the hunters in a way that weren't in the game. Now there's this connection between Kathleen and Henry and Sam. Obviously, Kathleen wasn't in the game, so it's and it's going to be interesting to see if if and how much they diverge.
Yeah. Well, we get 9 episodes? Is that?
I thought it was 10, but
is it 10?
I also have heard 9 as well.
So, well, we're about halfway through at this point. We either are halfway through or getting close to being halfway through. And so far, I'm loving the series. I'm loving the show. I can't wait can't wait for Friday. So we'll be watching Friday night for sure. So with that being said, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, again, hit the like and subscribe button for us. It's always helpful. Leave a comment. Give us your theories on what's on. I mean, and you may already know because you've played the game or whatever, but let us know what your theories are for what's underneath there. What's the deal with Henry and Sam? What's the deal with Kathleen? So we're always looking for comments, dig into different fan theories. We love those, all that stuff. So Darren, thanks for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. This was fun. I think
I'm talking about this show.
Yeah, I'm having a great time.
Loving the show.
Yep, loving the show. Yep, and we're having a great time. So, Captain Dunsel, if you're watching, we're eating well with this one.
Yeah, we are. We are very eating well.
If you haven't listened to that, you need to go listen to the rundown.
Right,
so,
yeah.
But yeah. Well, with that being said,
that'll make sense.
Yep. With that being said, thanks. Have a good one, and we'll see ya. Bye.
It's because he was outstanding in his field.
He was outstanding. The scarecrow.
Little bookmark there.